Welcome to the Modern Application Development 2 Screencast. In this screencast, we'll build a simple calculator using just HTML and JavaScript and nothing else. To follow along, open an editor. In this case, I'm using Sublime Text. You can use VS Code or any other, and have a browser, Chrome or Firefox. Yeah. To start with, I've just created a template of HTML, so we can quickly start. And I've opened the same thing in the browser, same HTML, right here. I've opened the same. Now we are going to build a calculator. In the first part of it, we're just going to make it very simple, where we'll probably have a text box and then a button called maybe calculate. Okay, and then when you give an expression here, let's say 5 star 6, and when you click on calculator, it should return 30. That's the first part that we are going to build, and then we're going to enhance it. Okay, now that this is out of the way, let's add some style sheet to this to make it pretty. We can add it from Bootstrap project, as we know. So let me just copy the CSS and add CSS and add parts of JavaScript bundle as well. Okay, I've added JavaScript bundle. Now I will just add a structure using the grid. You can look at it here in the grid, how to add a structure, columnar structure. I'm just going to do that here very quickly and copy paste from my existing code so it's faster, and add some form elements, basically one text box and one button, right? Like we need those two, right? Let me add them. Yeah, so what we need is a container and a row, like we have in grid system, and then just add by one, right? So there is one container, one row. I'm just going to close the container. Okay, and within this one row, I'm going to have 3 columns. I'm just going to use the middle column, but I'm going to have 3 columns. Class call. Okay, so you can check this out on Bootstrap grid to see how this works. I think we have already gone through this in Modern Application Development 1 in the Bootstrap screencast. You can revisit that to see if you want to learn more about it. So I have 3 columns. I'm going to use the middle column for my input box and a button. So let me just create an input. Input is a text box, type is also input. This is the one where you will give an expression, so I'll call it an expression. Okay, so this is probably this, and we're calling this as expression because that's the one we're going to evaluate. And then I'll have a placeholder for people to help, let's say 3 star 5 as a placeholder, so they'll know what to do. I'll just end it, and we're going to add a class form control to this. Okay, so we have added this. Let's just check once. Let me just save this, go here, and yeah, so this is how it's going to think. You can edit it if you want. Okay, now I'm going to add a button just below it, and button type is button type only, so nothing to worry about there. And I'll give an ID. I'll call this calculate, because that's what the button is going to do. Okay, CALCULATE, and then I'll add a class button. I want to make it blue. You can check the colors on Bootstrap. I think the primary one is blue. So I'm going to just make it btn primary. Yeah, you can check this for class names there. Okay, so let's see if it looks okay. Okay, it looks okay. We're not given a name, so we'll give a label. Okay, so there you go. So we have a button, and when we click, we want to update this content and then show the value. Now JavaScript has a very interesting function called eval, where you can give an expression in the form of string and it will evaluate in runtime and return you the result. You can check that on MDN docs. It's not very safe, but for our example it works. So we can use it. Look, for example, I'll just quickly run that here in the console. Eval it takes a string 3 star 5. Okay, it gives you 15. Let me just zoom in here. 3 star 5, it gives you that, and then 3 star 5 plus 2, it checks over the operator in what order it should be evaluated, etc. So we don't have to worry any of those. So if you give an operation like expression, and then you can evaluate directly. So that's what we are going to do. Now the most important part is adding a event to this button. What should happen when you click the button? So that can be done in two ways. The most easiest one is a function you can call on this called onClick, and you can give a function. Let's say we want to call a function called calculate on click of this button. We don't have this function defined, we can define. So what happens is when this button is clicked, this function will get called. So we can define this function. Let's just define a simple function. Starts with function, as you would know. Okay, and then open up. Right, I'm just going to just alert something. Okay. Okay, now if I've saved it, I've reloaded. That is happening because I didn't give the script tag. So basically you should put the JavaScript function in a script tag, right? So script. So I'm gonna add it here. So I'm just gonna format a bit for it to look good. Okay. Okay, now let's refresh this screen. So it's there. If I click on calculate, that function gets called alert. Now what we have to do is get the value from here and evaluate it and return the answer, right? So now you can get a value of ID by calling a function called get value or get element by ID and then calling the value attribute on that, right? So what you could do is write a simple line which actually okay, didn't paste. Let's write anyway. Expression is equal to document dot get element by ID. We are trying to get element by ID of this ID expression, and then we want the value of it, right? So I can just console.log just to check whether we are getting the value, right? Let's do that. Okay, so now if I refresh this and let's say I enter 3 plus 6, 3 plus 6 and calculate, it's logging here, so I know that has been entered and we're getting the value. Now we need to just evaluate and return it. So what we'll do is we'll just call answer is equal to eval of this expression. Okay, once the answer is found, I'm going to set it back into this same text box. So once calculate, this gets replaced and should become 9 like that, right? So I'll do answer, then I'll copy this and then equal to answer. Okay, now if I reload and if I do 6 star 7 calculate, it gives 42, and the answer is it automatically filled. So you have a calculator basically, right? You can do many things. 4 divided by 2 plus 3, for example, 5. So you can do many things. For example, what happens if you give empty and click calculate? Nothing happens, but it prints undefined because this value is undefined. So we can add an extra validation here. We'll do this only if there is a valid value in the expression, right? We can do that, right? Within, if not, do nothing, right? Okay. Now if I calculate, nothing happens because no value, nothing happens. So that we have handled one thing, but there could be other things. For example, somebody enters that and it calculates, it throws an exception. So you can always add a try and catch block, right? Much easier to add a try and catch block. You can always add try, okay, and then catch exception, and I'll probably do nothing for now. And then we can, for now I'll just log Control S. I'll do console.log bad expression, right? I'll reload, and let's say somebody enters this is a bad expression. Now actually I want to show all the logs of the thing, what all the expressions have evaluated, whether there's error, etc., etc. at the bottom of this. We can just create a div, and then add ordered list and keep adding to the ordered list. I'll show it to you. So let's say if there is an ordered list, and let's call that a log, right? And then /ul. So we're going to keep adding li or list items to this as and when we run the expression, right? So for that I'll just write another function and call that function instead of adding it to the same function, just that the work is different. And so it's better to keep the functions on smaller and purposeful than adding everything to the same function. So let's say this function is called add log, right? And let's say it has a log called message to this UI. So first thing I'll get is where I'll just get a reference to this, ul is equal to document dot get element by id. No, id is log, so log. Okay, now to add to this we need to create an li, so I'll have to create an element, right? So I'll create an element where li is that's done using create element function on document. Create element. So you can create any tag dynamically by calling this function create element and passing the name of the tag. So I'm going to create element li. I want to add text to it, means I had to create a text node as well, or a message node, and add it to li and then add li to ul, right? So I'll just create another one called message node, right? So where message text node is equal to so that can be directly created by calling document dot create text node and passing the actual message, right? And then I'll add this to this as a child and this to this as a child. Okay, so let's add to li dot append child. I'm adding message text node to the li, right? So now we have the fully formed li with the text inside it. Now we are going to add it to ul, right? So I'll add same thing ul dot append child li. Right, now we can call this whenever we want. So let's say along with logging I want to say expression is bad, please fix it. Okay, let's see if it works. Okay, I'm going to enter some random thing, click on, so it shows the message X is bad, please fix it. I just want it to be a little more significant, so I'll just add a H or maybe H3 saying log. Right, so let's say this, okay, is bad, please fix it. So if when it gets evaluated also I want to add, so I'll just add similar thing here. Then I'll say add log expression equal to answer. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, so if I do 3 plus 5 and click on calculate, it shows here we are logged. So let me do one more, 6, and click calculate, it adds to the same. It's adding the nodes to this li dynamically, and then divided by 2 does that. Then in case there is an error, click on calculate, it goes wrong, and then it shows the message. Right, so you can modify it as much as you want. Now this is simplest calculate. If you want to go a little more higher and actually use a math expression, you could use math.js and actually call evaluate on that. So you can also call scientific functions. For example, let me just do that. And include the math.js. Okay, so okay, let's see, math.js get started, or like so I'll download. Okay, and you can download from any CDN. Okay, let's do it from JS deliver. Okay, I'll just copy it. Okay, and then add script src. Okay, so that's been included. Now it gives us another function called math, if you see their example, and that we can use to evaluate. All right, so this function. So let's create another function. Let's not modify this function. I'll just copy this function. So I'll just call it math calculate instead of the thing, and instead of calling eval, I'll call math dot what is it, evaluate. Okay, now instead of calling this function calculate, we can call math calculate. Now if I go back here and let's say we have sine 90, click calculate, now we are getting even scientific answers. All right, so we now have even a simple scientific calculator, right? And what we learned here is how to create nodes dynamically, how to create HTML nodes dynamically and add it to the existing DOM, how to answer to an event, and then how to respond to an event, how to catch an exception and handle it, how to write functions. One more thing that we want to do is there is another way to attach the event. We don't have to attach it here. If you want it, we can attach it as part of the script itself. For example, if you want to do all the event attachments centralized, we can do that as well. For example, let me just create another function called initialize app, right? So what I'm going to do is initialize the app here. So I'm not going to add on click event here. This is going to be plain simple HTML, no JavaScript within this part, right? I'm just going to do everything here, right? Let's say you want to do get element by ID, similar to this. I want to get this button, calculate. So calculate. Now you can attach an event to this calculate, right? By calling add event listener, right? You can say calculate dot on event listener ner, and then it takes two things. One is the event name, what is the event, click, and what is the function that needs to be called. In our case, the function needs to be called is math calculate. Just to separate it out, there is two, the functions and the variable are same name, so I will call this calculate button, just to keep it clean and separate, because they could be confusing. Now you can see that it gets button reference, and then on button click we are calculating the function math calculate. So functions are first class elements, you can pass around the functions, so I'm passing the function here. Now this has to be called on loading of the application, so we can actually call it at the end here. Once the DOM is loaded, we can call initialize app, and then it should work, right? So let's say, okay, there seems to be some error here. Let's check. Oh, sorry, it should be add event listener, not on event listener. Okay, I'm adding the event listener to that button. You can add multiple ones, not just one, for the same button, but I'm adding only one. Okay, now refresh. You can say sign of 90, right? And calculate, it gives an answer. So it gets initialized like this, but you can also do other thing. You can also call on body, you can call on load. That's also another event which gets called. On the load of the body, once the body is loaded completely, that gets called. So we can remove this part to make it. So here on body load, we are initializing the app, which is adding an event listener, which is doing everything else to handle, right? So now if I load, I'll zoom a bit, 3 star 5 calculate, it gives 15, and here it is. And if I do star sign 90, you can calculate and you can go on. That's it, actually, the simple calculator. We're going to do part 2 of it, where we're going to add a grid of buttons to make it look more like the regular calculator. Let's see how the regular calculator looks like.